can be a problem if I'm not voting, if I have to leave this.
Get your life.
We still have quorum. Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
good question.
You're good.
I didn't think.
Okay.
We're live.
Okay, we are live at 5:34. Welcome, everyone. Hopefully our last Zoomer. And as everyone has a copy of the agenda, could we have these are great, those words again. Have
Mover.
yes, Renee, thank you. Renee is going to adopt it and Rochelle is going to second it. And any objections to the agenda? Okay, it's accepted. And disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. That would be myself. I am involved in 7C. So at that time, I will ask if everyone is okay for Matt to take over as chair to discuss that particular problem, particular application, not a problem. Anyone else have pecuniary interests or general nature thereof? Nobody? Okay. And adoptions of the minutes from our meeting on June the 10th, 2021. Everyone had a chance to read them over. And did anyone see any problems? I will then need a mover to adopt those minutes. Dave and a seconder, John, and is there any objections to the minutes as they are presented?
I'll read the resolution.
Oh.
So I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that the agenda for the Sudbury East Planning Board regular meeting of August 12, 2021 be adopted as distributed. I know we already moved and second that earlier, so I'm just going to forward that over to Carol
And
for signatures.
no objections? Okay, no.
And the
There's another admit.
And the second item now that we're discussing is regarding the minutes of June 10th, 2021. Putting forward the motion that be it resolved that the minutes of the Sudbury East Planning Board's regular meeting of June 10th, 2021 be adopted as distributed. Which there's a mover in a second.
Is that not what I?
Yeah, that's already done. That was the agenda.
Do I have to ask for?
We already did. Nancy documented it.
Okay, no, they would have been here. Okay, I see we have a lot of people here. There's no one for presentations. Is there anyone for presentations or delegation?
So not that I'm aware of, Madam Chair, that there's no presentations or delegations this evening.
Okay, the zoning conformity permits. These are in your package as well. There are several, wow. And that's just for your information.
So basically what the zoning conformity permits, they relate to the unorganized township specifically. So we're just providing you, the board members, a summary of the first quarter and the second quarter in terms of what has been issued by myself for those 13 unorganized townships. So that summary basically just gives you an idea the types of construction that is taking place for the first half or the first two quarters. So for example, there's some permits that are for new septic systems. Others are for the permission to build a single family home with an attached deck. Again, another single family home and a sleep cabin. There's another permit to provide an addition and 2 decks. There was a permit for the construction of a detached garage. There was a permit for to recognize an existing sauna, as well as storage use and to permit a new septic system. There's another permit for a single family home, septic system, detached garage, pump house and pool. And the last one was construction of a single family home and a septic system. So in total, there has been 8 permits issued for the unorganized townships for the first 2 quarters.
There's none.
Well, yeah, there's 9 actually, I lied, sorry. On the back, and that was to recognize an existing sea cabin that was constructed back in 2005. Which was located within an accessory structure. So that's just kind of a little recap for everybody to see what's going on in the unorganized townships in terms of it's called a zoning conformity permit. It's through the Planning Act, and it's not called a building permit, but a lot of people think it's a building permit, but the right term is zoning conformity permit. So that's where we are, and we'll be providing another update at our future meeting with respect to the 3rd and 4th quarter for those zoning conformity permits.
Thank you. Okay. So this evening, there is public hearing for 10 consent applications scheduled for analysis and discussion as listed on the agenda. Richard and Joelle Bayou, B 26, 27, 21. French River, Jerry V and Ellen Simon, B 28, 21, and March Day Warren. Dave and Carol Lemon, B 29, 30, 21, BRW, Burwash, I think that means. Nancy and Francois Tache, B 31, 21, St. Charles. Renee Greenville and Tammy Haddock, E 32, 33, 21, St. Charles. And Danica Besalion and Greg McDonald, B 34, 35, 21, St. Charles. I apologize if I've massacred any names. The Planning Act requires the applications to be analyzed and discussed before the planning board whether or not to grant the provisional consent. The analysis and discussion of an application serves 2 purposes. First, to present to the planning board and to the public the details and background to a proposal, and second, to receive comments from the public and agencies before a planning board decision is made. The Director of Planning, Mr. Matthew Dumont, will then advise virtually of the purpose and effect of the application and summarize any correspondence on file. Second, we will call on the applicant or their agents to add any explanations or reasons why the application should be approved. The planning board will then have the opportunity to question the applicant or anyone giving presentations. The application will then be considered by the planning board. Mr. Dumont, would you please advise how, when, and to whom notices of application were circulated?
So notice of application was sent by mail to the assessed owners within 60 meters of the subject property. That's to the proposed consent application this evening. And to those persons and agencies likely to have an interest in the application tonight. So included with each notice was an explanation of the purpose and effect of the application, and a key map showing the location of the subject property as it relates to the proposal.
I now declare that this portion of the planning board analyzed and discussed consent application B 26, 27, 21, French River, Richard and Joelle Bayou. Mr. Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed consent and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So to start with the application, this is B 2627 in the municipality of French River. We do have the owners participating in this evening's meeting, so I'm just advising the board of that. So in terms of process, I'm kind of give you a quick summary to the board members, and then there'll be an opportunity should the owners have any further input or questions. They'll have an opportunity have a say in that as well. And then finally, I'll go back to the board members to have any further questions with relation to this application. So Richard reached out to me back on March 9th, and on April 20th, I had a teleconference with the both of them regarding their submission and to assist them through this process. So the lands are located on the north side of Trout Lake Road. It's west of Highway 535. It's approximately 1 kilometer northwest of the village of Noelville. So the lands are predominantly in an area of rural and rural uses. So the application is to create 2 rural lots within the municipality of French River. Each of the proposed lots are approximately 5.2 hectares and lot frontage of 134 meters. So the proposed lot 1 and 2, as well as the retain, are to have road frontage and access from Trout Lake Road. The proposed retain lot is approximately 54.22 hectares in lot area and has a lot frontage of approximately, again, 134.1 meters. Proposed lot 2, which is B27. So how I break this down, B26 is identifying lot 1, and B27 is identifying lot 2. So there was a misunderstanding with some of the information, so I want to clarify that as well tonight. So there's a single family home, a barn, and a detached garage. The report at the time said that was on the retained lands. So I want to clarify that with everybody, that those 3 structures are actually on B27 or lot 2 in terms of the severance. So I just want to clarify that as well to the owners who had reached out to me regarding the matter. So with respect to the official plan, there's a number of criteria when considering a severance application, looking at access, is there any hazards, servicing, infrastructure, etc. So I have to consider all of that. So in this case, the proposed severed lot 1 and 2 and the retained parcel of land meet the requirements of the current zoning, which is rural. Adequate access for the proposed lots are from Trout Lake Road, which is it's a public road. It's maintained year-round by the municipality of French River. I also have correspondence from the Public Works Department who confirmed that the proposed locations of the entrance permits would be suitable for this proposal should it be supported this evening. With respect to minimum distance separation, it's not applicable because there's no farming activities occurring within a vicinity of the area. I did conduct a site visit as well to confirm that. And with respect to servicing, the owners provided me supportive comments from the Sudbury District Health Unit. That was on April 30th of 2021. And also provided the appropriate documentation with respect to sewage hauling services in the area and the potable water services as well. So taking all those approvals in consideration, that kind of supports the recommendation of the severance this evening, or both severances. So I'll just touch on the zoning briefly. So the lands are presently zoned rural. So there's going to be no change in the zoning. Why? Because they're continuing to meet or exceed the lot frontage, which is over 100 meters, and the lot area, which is over 5 hectares. So no change in land use. With respect to agency comments, I already kind of touched on this. Sudbury District Health Unit did get back to us. They did provide us supportive comments. The municipality of French River provided note that parkland will be subject to the minimum contribution of amount of $1,000. Road transfer may be applicable as part of the severance application. Drains, municipal drains, that is, the subject property is assessed on a drain and might require apportionment. So these are things that are going to form part of the conditional improvements. Basically, if the application was to be approved this evening, there are going to be conditions, and that's provisionally approved. And those conditions have to be satisfied within a year to formally finalize the severance. The chief building official also commented and said that there are open building permits on the file, and that the owners will reach out to the building department to have communication with Andrea Trina, who's the chief building official. Bell Canada had no concerns with the application this evening. Hydro One had no concerns. I did receive one letter in the mail. The mail, it is from ALL La Chapelle. And the question, I'll just read you I just got this today, so I'll just read you the letter. So I hereby request that I be notified of the decision of the Sudbury East Planning Board in respect to the proposed consent. I submit that it is not proposed retained lot that contains a single family home, barn, detached garage, but is proposed B27 to be severed that contains this. The revised information must be given in writing to all concerned and affected parties. It is also important that this new accurate information be submitted at the meeting of August 12, 2021, 5:30 at the municipal office of Prince River. Awaiting your confirmation in writing. So that's what I received. So with respect to this letter, I did address this first and foremost at the beginning of it. So there's just a misunderstanding in terms of where the structures were located. Rather than being located on the retained parcel, they're located on a separate parcel. It doesn't change anything in terms of the rural zone. Why? Because those are permitted either way. They are a right of use. So there's no issues with respect to that. And I'd be open to have any further questions from the board members, should they have any questions about that. Other than that, no other comments were received as the date of this report. And based on all the facts that I provided the board members this evening, the application is consistent with our provincial legislation, as well as conforms to our official plan and zoning bylaw, therefore can be supported from a plan perspective.
Does the applicant have a presentation that he or she wishes to make?
The only thing can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so the building inspector did come over the other day and did the final inspection and was going to close those permits.
Perfect. Through you, Madam Chair. So what will happen is I just need to, if the, just to show you how the process works, is if the application is to be supported this evening, you're going to receive paperwork from Nancy. And basically that paperwork is going to state the following. You're going to have a letter that says you're granting provisional consent, and there'll be a list of conditions attached to that. And I'll also say in that letter that you have to satisfy these conditions within a year for this to be finalized. So I'm just kind of giving you that advice in advance. And then at that point in time, you're going to see those conditions. And one of those conditions, all I would need is an email from Andrea Torini stating what you noted earlier that happened a couple days ago, and that it would be cleared. And then from my end, I would clear that condition for you.
So I do have a question. If everything is done within the year, is the process still, do you move on with the process, or do you have to wait the year?
Through you, Madam Chair. To your question is, so in terms of process, if I have 15 days after tonight's meeting to send out a decision. So whenever that decision is going to be sent out, whatever that date is, you have to tack on 20 days. So 20 days is the appeal process that's open to the public, should anybody object to it. Once the appeal date is over, you can immediately start working on those conditions.
Okay.
And then or just reach out to the planning board, reach out to myself, and I will guide you further through this process to ensure everything's good to go with your lawyers.
Okay.
I just have one question for Joelle.
Yeah.
You're just 1 kilometer south of Noelville. Is that still called Trout Lake Road? I understood it was Shaw Road.
No, that is still Trout Lake Road.
It is. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? If so, please stand, give your name, full mailing address to the administrative assistant, and follow with your comments. Okay, nobody from the public. Any questions from the planning board other than me? Nope. Okay.
I'll read the resolution.
Could you read the resolution?
I'll read the resolution for the 2 severances. Be it resolved that consent application B26 27, 2021, French River, submitted by Richard and Joel, be recommended for approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning.
And could I have a motioner for that?
Mover. Mover.
Mover, okay. John, and a seconder, how about Dave? And do we have any objection to the resolution as read? No objections, so it's carried by all. And please be advised that there is a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the Secretary Treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal. You have 1 year to fulfill the conditions of this conditional approval, or the approval will lapse. Okay. I now declare that the meeting, this portion of the planning board, analyze and discuss consent application B28-21, Mark Day Warren, Jerry V. and Ellen Simon. Mr. Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed consent and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So I don't believe, so Jerry and Ellen represented themselves on this file, and I don't believe they are present, or they never notified me that they were being willing to participate in this. So I started this process with Ellen back on January 19th of 2021. Ellen, I submitted a sketch on behalf of Ellen, but she had sent me her sketch, and then from there, I reached out to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry for comments regarding her proposal. And on February 9th, the MNR basically, or March 12th, the MNR got back to us with regards to the proposal for the comments. And the reason we had reached out to the Ministry of Natural Resource Forestry, because there is an aggregate license in the nearby vicinity. So just doing our due diligence, or my due diligence, we reached out, we've got the comments. And the MNR wanted further details with respect to the site plan. So as a result of their feedback, I worked, again, I guided Ellen through this process to say that you needed to fine tune a few things on the site plan. And with that said, we sent the sketch back. I sent the sketch back to my contacts at MNRF on May 5th of 2021. And then from there, from May 5th to where we are now, I had several ongoing meetings, whether it was in person or over the phone, with municipal staff, as well as the applicant in itself, to where we are today. So with that said, the lands are located on the north side of Rabbit Trail Road. It's west of 539, Highway 539, and it's east of Molly Road. Subject lands are in an area predominantly of residential, with the exception to the south of subject property, or south of Rabbit Trail Road, is an existing aggregate quarry, license 71015. And further southwest of the property is a salvage scrapyard in the vicinity. So this was identified through my pre-consultation. So the intent of the application this evening is to create one rural lot on Rabbit Trail Road. The proposed lot is to be severed, is approximately, it's quite large actually, it's 12 hectares in area, and it's approximately 160 meters of frontage, and presently is vacant. So again, as I touched on the previous application you just heard, I'm evaluating the severance based on that same kind of criteria. So in this case, the proposed severed lot and retained parcel meet, again, the rural zone requirements. Adequate access for the proposed lots to be severed and retained or to be accessed from Rabbit Trail Road, which is within the municipality of Mark State Warren, and had no objections to the severance in terms of that. The minimum distance separation is not applicable again in this instance, as there are no farming related activities in the area. With respect to servicing, the owner has not provided comments from the sub-redistrict health unit as to whether or not the proposed lot is capable of development for installation of a septic system or a leaching bed. Therefore, as I do with everybody, I'm very transparent with anybody that comes into the office and saying, should you wish to proceed with this, it's going to be a condition of approval. But should you want that conditional approval, we need supportability from the sub-redistrict health unit. So I provided that flexibility to Ellen in terms of timing. So she's aware of it. We have written confirmation from Ellen. So going forward, this will form as a condition of approval, and it must be supported from the health unit in order for the severance to pursue. But she did provide us with the appropriate documentation with respect to sewage hauling services, as well as potability of potable water that can be provided for the area for an individual well. As I kind of noted earlier, as my pre-consultation, I noted one potential development constraint, which was identified in our official plan. It was a licensed aggregate resource site located in the immediate south or across the road from the subject property. Section 3.8.2 of the official plan echoes policies of the provincial policy statement pertaining to the protection of aggregate resources for continued extraction or future use. So to address these policies that are in the PPS as well as in the official plan, I provided the opinion that the severance will not be impacted of this proposed development, or will not impact the expansion. So the key word is the expansion of the existing aggregate resource in the area, because the proposed separate lot is separated by a physical feature. That physical feature is the Rabbit Trail Road that is maintained and publicly assumed by the municipality of Mark St. Warren. So based on the site observations of the property and on the setbacks on the likely extraction area. So what I mean by that is MNRF provided me a map of where the quarry is, but also provided me a map of the extent of the license to where that envelope is. So I took that also into consideration too. So based on that, the property line is not anticipated that the severance will have a negative impact on the potential. So it won't have a negative impact on the potential future development of the aggregate resource. So with that said, the zoning, as I touched on earlier, is going to be maintaining the same. It's rural right now. Once the severance goes through, it's going to be rural. Why? It exceeds 100 meters of frontage and exceeds 5 hectares of land. With respect to agency comments, the CAO for Mark St. Warren had no issues. The chief building official had no issues. Public Works Superintendent had no issues. Fire Department had no issues. Economic Development Officer had no issues. Parks and Recreation Department was not applicable. Bell Canada had no concerns with respect to the application. Hydro One had no concerns. The Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources had no issues with the findings. And the MNR provided our correspondence with regards to D6 guidelines for compatibility between industrial facilities for the proposed severance. And basically they're class 1, class 2, class 3. That's how they provide their evidence on that. Other than that, we didn't receive any phone calls or objections from any neighboring properties in the area. And I haven't received anything formally via letter or email. So with that all said, the application is consistent with the 2020 provincial policy statement. Our current official plan for the Sudbury-East Planning area, as well as the zoning bylaw for the municipality of Mark St. Warren.
Does the applicant have presentation that he or she wishes to make? And I think they're not available. Okay, and are there any questions or comments from members of the public? If so, please stand, give your name and full mailing address to the administrative assistant and follow with your comments. None. Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the planning board to the applicant, the director of planning, or any person who has made a presentation? No questions? Oh,
Just me, maybe, Matt.
Okay.
I'm just MNRF Sudbury District is not the same as the Natural Resources and Forestry, that's Ontario?
That's correct. So there's actually two governing agencies. Actually, that's a typo. That's what happened. So I started with the Ministry of Northern Development and Mines, and the typo is Natural Resources. So they're two actually. They're two separate agencies. So I
Okay.
accidentally put two of them together on the same line where they're actually separate. And so basically, I reached out to them in terms of the geology of the area, in terms of sometimes there's record of like certain licenses with MNRF, and they kind of like intertwine with both agencies. So when something like this happens, I'll reach out to both. So technically, it should be Ministry of Northern Development and Mines.
Okay, and so the MNRF Sudbury District, it doesn't support it because of the aggregates across the road?
So originally, yes, that was the case. So basically, the MNRF they were not supportive. So what happened was from January to where we are now, Ellen had provided a sketch, and it provided frontage and lot area. And so I accepted the sketch. It looked good, and I sent it through to the MNRF. So fast forward. MNRF comes back and says, hey, based on our system, the lot frontages and areas you're proposing are not consistent. And at that point, I said, okay, I'll look at my system too. And I confirmed with MNRF that is the case. So then I got on the phone with Ellen and I said, hey, Ellen, we have to resubmit the sketch. Why do we have to resubmit some sketch? Because the information you provided us is not actually accurate. So what she was saying, she was basically saying she owned more frontage than she did. So to say, for example, she said she had 2,000 meters of frontage, but she only had actually 1,200 meters of frontage. So that's what the delay in the whole process was, that we needed that accurate information. So once I was able to discuss that with Ellen, and because she was wondering, well, why? Because and then I was able to show her, and she's like, oh, okay. And she didn't know because Ellen was just going out there walking her property. She didn't get a survey or anything. It's approximate. I said, well, I found an old bar here, an old bar there. So I thought, you know what, it's going to be around this. But I said, based on both our properties, it's not the case. So she revised it and she put it over to the other, she reduced the frontage. So the severed lot was like this wide. Now, once we got the new information in terms of what you actually own, the frontage of that severed lot went like this, which went further away from the aggregate.
Okay,
And that's what happened the last 6 months with the misinformation to where we are today.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We recognize John?
Yeah, okay, so are you saying that the actual lot is now more than 300 meters away from the quarry? Okay, because they would not accept anything, I think it said less than 300 meters.
Yeah, 300 meters. So that's exactly through Madam Chair. So that's where it was originally close to that 300 meters with the first sketch, which triggered that. And then from the second sketch, we increased it further away from it. And as a result, we persist. And with the road traversing through, because typically aggregates are backing onto people's property.
Yeah.
And in this case, the aggregate's on the other side of the road. And so it's in their ownership. So the impact that it would have, say, John, if you owned your property beside them, it would be a different scenario or a different outcome. Whereas she's on the north side of it and increase that distance at the same time. There's a lot of back and forth, so I'm happy that we are where we are today. It did take some time and patience, but it all worked itself out.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, could you read the resolution?
So the resolution would be for B2821 Mark State Warrant. It's consent to application submitted by Jerry and Ellen. Be recommended for approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning.
Okay, do we have a mover for this resolution? How about Dave and a seconder, John? And any objection to the resolution as read? Okay, carried by all then. Okay, please be advised that there is a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the secretary treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal. You have 1 year to fulfill the conditions of this conditional approval or the approval will lapse. Now, the next portion of the meeting will be chaired by, with your agreement, chaired by Matthew Dumont. And I just wanted to add that Brian Darlin is representing us, so any person who, any questions can be directed to Brian. Okay.
Okay, so it might be, I'm gonna read the whole script, so I'll be playing two roles in one. I'll act as the secretary, treasurer, and the chair. So I will start by saying, I now declare that this portion of the planning board analyze and discuss consent application B29 /3021 Burwash for Dave and Carol Lemon. Myself, I'll be summarizing the purpose and effect of the proposed severance application tonight. And will be providing additional information and correspondence relevant to this proposal. So to start this one, so I started this process with Brian Dorland. So Brian Dorland is participating in this evening's meeting. He is the agent who is representing David and Carol. So he will have an opportunity later to speak on behalf of the application or provide any additional information. So the process started with Brian Dorland. Back on January 23rd of 2021, I provided a response to his proposal then, and I provided that response on February 12th. So originally, Mr. Dorland submitted a severance package to create 4 lots. So that was the original intent then. However, through further discussions with our office, as well as the owner, Mr. Dorland amended the application on June 28th. And on June 28th of 2021. So the intent now for this application is to create 2 rural lots. Also had a teleconference with Mr. Dorland and their environmental ecosystem specialist, and I'll explain that a little bit further afterwards. So I had numerous discussions with the agent and their specialists going through this process. So the lands are located on the east side of Old Highway 69. It's south of Trout Lake Road and are adjacent to Crown lands to the west. The subject lands are an area predominantly of rural lands, except for there's 7 waterfront residential lots which have water frontage on Cranberry Lake. Also to the south of the subject property, there's also a total of 6 waterfront residential lots that have water frontage on Graham Lake. Now, those 2 lakes are a fair distance from the subject property itself. So the Sudbury East Planning Board has received an application for consent, which is to create 2 rural lots in the unorganized township. So it's not a municipality, unorganized township of Burwash. Proposed lot 1 is to have an approximate area of 70 hectares. That's 70 hectares and a lot frontage of 342 meters and is presently vacant. The proposed lot 2 is to have approximate area of 19 hectares and a lot frontage of 365 meters and is also presently vacant. The proposed lot to be retained is to have approximately just over 5 hectares and have a lot frontage of 109 meters and contains a single family home, a detached garage, and a shed. Both the severed and retained lots have access from Trout Lake Road, which is maintained year-round by the local roads board in this case. With respect to the official plan, proposed lot 1 and 2 and the retained parcel, again, meet the requirements of the rural zone. Adequate access for the proposed severed and retained lots can be accessed from Trout Lake Road, which is maintained year-round by the Ministry of Transportation on behalf of the local roads board, which is Burwash. So every unorganized township has their own kind of local roads board that they pitch money into to maintain their roads or culverts. So that's how that system works. Also Dean Martin. So Dean Martin is with MTO. He provided us through the agent, indicated he has checked the proposed entrances to the new lots that are going to be potentially created, and confirmed that he does not foresee any problems with the lines of sight. So that was from February 26th of 2021. Minimum distance is not applicable in this instance. With respect to servicing, Mr. Dorland provided our office with approvals from Sudbury District Health Unit. Those were approved on July 15th of 2021. Appropriate documentation with the sewage hauler as well as well driller was also provided to our office. Now, in addition to that, part of our due diligence, there were potentially some endangered species on the lot. So section 3.5.2.5 contains policies respecting significant habitat of endangered and threatened species. Development and site alteration are not permitted on lands adjacent to habitat unless the ecological function of an adjacent land has been evaluated and it has been demonstrated that there will be no negative impacts on those natural features or their ecological function. So as part of this process, the Eastern Whippoorwill was identified as part of this ecological site assessment that was conducted by a biologist on behalf of the agent. And that was through the Environmental Ecosystems Incorporated. So that was the business that conducted this ecological site assessment. It was determined that the Eastern Whippoorwill were located to the northeast and southwest of the subject property, which is lot 2. So there's 2 lots being severed. Lot 1's at the top, lot 2's at the bottom. So this is being referenced to the lot at the bottom or the southern portion of their property. So the extent of the defined territory includes a portion of the property, so a portion of that lot 2, and adjacent lands to the southwest that is categorized as category 3 habitat. Therefore, based on their findings, going through this process, they had to then do an environmental impact study, was required to demonstrate how the proposed development will not result, as I said earlier, in a negative impact for the Eastern Whippoorwill or their habitat or within 50 meters of the site. So subsequently, once they completed that report, the findings from the scoped EIS recommended that any proposed small scale future development should be situated outside of the Eastern Whippoorwill habitat category 3, and that has been applied to the site. So however, if the development occurs in the area identified as having high tolerance, this category 3, it is not anticipated to have a negative impact to the ecological functions of land regarding that. So I did have a conversation with their biologists based on this. There's 3 reports. I read them very thoroughly. I had some questions. We had a teleconference with the agent, Mr. Dorland, as well as the biologist. So I just wanted to ensure everything was as stated in the report. Now, with respect to zoning, again, the rural zone, right now the lands are zoned rural, which requires 5 hectares at a minimum and 100 meters at a minimum. So each of the proposed lots 1 and 2, will exceed those requirements. As for the retained lot, they will also exceed those requirements. Again, the retained lot, everything in terms of zoning is fine, so there's no additional zoning requirements for this proposal. In terms of agency comments, Sudbury District Health Unit provided supportive comments for both lots. Hydro 1 had no comments. I did receive 2 phone calls, so I'll kind of touch on those concerns. So the first phone call, both phone calls are neighboring properties in the area. The first one was address 1309 Trout Lake Road. So their concerns were with the concerns of residential development increasing in the area, traffic, well water, because there's some knowledge of the individual stating that some of the wells in the area are drying up. So I basically addressed those concerns. Another one was conflict of interest. I've received 3 phone calls about conflict of interest, so I'm going to be very transparent with everybody here this evening. And I'll touch on that shortly, as well as Dave Lemon being the chair of the local roads board. Again, perception of conflict of interest. So I'm going to touch on all those points. Those were the points that were brought to my attention. So with respect to residential development, we're creating 2 lots. So it's not like we're creating 10 lots in the area. People have a right to create their lots as long as they meet the criteria of the official plan and the zoning bylaw. As long as you meet those criteria, you will have supportability from that aspect. And they're creating a total of 2 lots. So with respect to traffic, and I did address these answers like I am with these individuals. So we did have a good conversation after the fact. So in terms of traffic, if you're creating 1 lot or 2 lots, in my opinion, it's not going to have a negative impact on that issue. In terms of well water, as I said, stated to the individual, that's why I request those letters. That an engineer from a professional company has knowledge and information of the wells in the area, and it's in their professional opinion that there's well water there. That's why we received that information. So I addressed that. In terms of conflict of interest, as we all know, Carol is the chair of our board. So I addressed that, saying at the end of the day, I have a high standard. I follow my own professional within my own values and ethics within the profession of Ontario. I'm a registered professional planner. I'm also a member of the Canadian Institute of Planners. So every report that comes through me, at the end of the day, I focus on the official plan, the zoning bylaw, as well as the provincial policy statement. Those are how my decisions are made at the end of the day. So there's no influence whatsoever on my decision making. So I addressed that conflict of interest. And in terms of the conflict of interest of the chair, Dave Lemon being the chair of the local roads board, I did reach out. I did get confirmation from MTO, who's the manager of the highway corridors for that area. Because typically what I would do is I would ask for the local roads board individual to provide comments. But in this case, the owner is also the chair of the local roads board. So we went above that. We went to MTO, and MTO provided comments. So I have an email from MTO stating, as I stated earlier in my report, there's no issues with that. So reassure you, I addressed those comments to that concern. The other concern that I received was from the neighboring property, 1277 Trout Lake Road. The sentiment was very similar in terms of conflict of interest with the chair of our board, as well as her husband and the chair there. So again, I had already addressed that. And secondly, there are rumors in the area that there's some sort of cannabis facility that is going to be built in the area. Again, all I'm here today is to focus on the severance, creating those 2 lots. That's my focus. Should there be anything after that, they have my contact information at Sudbury Planning Board. So if they have any concerns with respect to the use of land, they can definitely give me a call at any point in time, and I can enforce that matter if that was to occur. So I'm not aware of that, and I had to bring them to the fact that I'm here tonight to focus on the severances, not the land use. So with that all said, those were all the comments that I've received with respect to the application. And I am supporting the application because 1, it's in line with the policies for the unorganized township for the PPS. And it's also conforms to our official plan for the Sudbury East Planning Board. And it also conforms to the zoning bylaw 14-01 for the unorganized townships. So now I'm going to put my chair hat back on. So does the applicant have a presentation that he or she wishes to make?
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. Dumont and Mr. Chair, I guess. I don't really have a formal presentation. I'd like to thank you for your detailed report and your support on this application. Again, we're just seeking to create 2 new rural lots. They're very large lots, 173 acres and 47 acres. it's pretty limited, it's a pretty limited proposal. We're not, trying to create a plan of subdivision or anything like that. We went through, as Matt stated, we went through all the proper channels, got all the, did all the proper pre-consultation with the health unit, the roads board, environmental consultants, biologists, back and forth with Matt quite a bit on this one. Yeah, so everything, it's pretty straightforward in my mind. As for addressing comments by abutting landowners, like Matt said, I think tonight we have to just focus on the purpose of this application, which is to create two lots. Future use of any potential future use of the property needs to be addressed at a later date when proposals potentially materialize. So I'd like to thank Matt again, and would be happy to answer any questions that the board or any members of the public may have.
Thank you, Mr. Dorland. So now I'm going to see if there's any questions or comments from the members of the public for this evening's meeting. If so, please provide your name, full mailing address to Nancy, and the following, follow with your comments. So Nancy, like I said, we had two letters or two phone calls. So 1309 Trout Lake Road, that was this morning, and 1277 Trout Lake Road also called this morning, which was summarized in my script this evening. So with that said, are there any questions or comments from the planning board to the agent or director of planning, or any person that may have an interest in the application? With that said, I will read the resolution. So be it resolved that consent application B 29-30, 2021, unorganized township of Burwash, submitted by Dave and Carol Lemon, be recommended for the approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning. Could I have a mover first, please? I got Dave first. Dave, you. And can I have a seconder, please? Renee? And all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Bear with me for a second, then I'll just go get Carol. Go. So we are now going on B 3121 St. Charles. Sorry.
Yours. Whoa, yeah, good file.
That's you.
The 20-day appeal period you read?
No, I did not. So I'll
Okay,
read that right now.
okay.
So please be advised that there is a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the Secretary Treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal.
Okay. I now declare that this portion of the planning board analyze and discuss consent application number B 2930-21, Burwash, oh, that's fine. Moving on. I now declare this portion of the planning board analyze and discuss consent application number B 3121, St. Charles, Nancy and Francois Troche. Mr. Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed consent and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So Bruno Roy, who is, I believe he's participating in the meeting this evening, is acting as the agent. So Bruno Roy is acting as the agent for Nancy and Francois Chatse. So Bruno Roy reached out to our office, and we started this process back on May 11th of 2021. The lands are located on the east side of Chevrolet Lane, south of King Street West in the village of St. Charles. The purpose of the application for consent is to create one residential lot. And that severed lot is going to be approximately 0.2 hectares in lot area with a lot frontage of approximately 45 meters and is presently vacant. The proposed retained lands are going to be relatively the same in acreage or in hectares, 0.2 hectares, with approximate frontage of 45 meters and is also vacant. So the policy framework is a little bit different because now we're in the village of St. Charles. So with respect to the official plan, 2.2.3 contains policies pertaining to lands designated village residential. So these lands are within that village residential context. Also, the predominant use of land in this area is it gives you a wide range or variety of residential types, like single family homes, semis, duplexes. So they'll have the ability to once that time comes, once it's severed, to pursue one of those types of buildings, single family home, duplex, semi. It's promoted in the area, and the other section talks about the development through infilling. So this is a perfect example of infilling. You have the village of St. Charles. This proposal is within inside of it. So you want to promote that infilling or intensification. So it's a perfect example. And it needs to, it's supported that it be connected to existing or partial services. So in this case, there is sewer there. So it'll be able to tie into the sewer. Or to the lagoons within St. Charles. So it's a partial. There's private water, but there's municipal sewer in this particular case on Chevrolet Lane. So we just wanted to make sure that that was all taken care of from that end. So with respect to zoning, again, I touched on it, it's R1 zoning. So the R1 says in our bylaw, you need to have a minimum 0.15 hectares. So the proposal is exceeding that. And you need to have a minimum lot frontage of 18 meters, where, this is the key factor, where there's municipal sewer services. So one, we know there's municipal sewer services, so we can check that box off. And 18 meters, well, the applicant or the agent is exceeding that with 45 meters for each lot. So there's no issues or concerns from that perspective. So it complies with the zoning bylaw. And in terms of agency comments or public comments, so the clerk for the municipality of St. Charles stated that the property is subject to municipal drains as a condition and may require reapportionment. The chief building official had no issues. It's a vacant lot. Public Works Superintendent had no issues in terms of access. Fire Department had no issues. Bell Canada had no concerns. Ministry of Energy and Northern Development and Mines, no issues or concerns with the proposal. Hydro One had no concerns, and Parks and Recreation Department had no concerns. We did not receive any comments from the public regarding this file, so no other comments were received as of the date this report was written. So as a result, the application is consistent with our provincial policy statement, as well as our official plan for the area, and can be supported from a planning perspective because it conforms to zoning bylaw.
Does the applicant have a presentation that he or she wishes to make?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Are there any questions, comments from the members of the public? If so, please stand, give your name, full mailing address to the administrative assistant and follow with your comments. And I don't think we have any public here. Okay, are there any questions or comments from the planning board to the applicant, the director of planning, or any person who has made a presentation? Any questions? No questions. So
I will read the resolution for this application. So the application is B 3121 St. Charles. Be it resolved that consent application submitted by Nancy and Francois Chartier be recommended for approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning. Move it.
Do we have a mover for this resolution as read? John and Renee seconded it. And do we have any objection on the board for this resolution? And no, so it was carried by all. And please be advised, there's a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the secretary treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal. You have 1 year to fulfill the conditions of this conditional approval or the approval will lapse. I now declare that this portion of the planning board analyze and discuss consent application number B 323321 St. Charles, Renee Ringville and Tammy Haddad. Mr. Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed consent and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So this evening we have the agent participating. I believe it's Paul Goodrich is also here this evening. So you'll have an opportunity to speak on behalf of the application as well. So on April 26th, our office received a proposal from Mr. Goodrich's office. And on May 18th, 2021, I had issued my response letter regarding what the requirements would be to pursue this severance application. So from there, we had several conversations, myself and Paul, as well as Renee. So Renee Rainville obviously is the owner of the property too. And so we worked, basically our office had received all the information we needed up to around July 5th. And at that point in time, on July 5th, I deemed the application complete, and that's where we are today. So with that kind of context in the background, I'm just going to kind of describe the proposal this evening. So the lands are located on the west side of Highway 535. They're south of North Central Road. The subject property is approximately just over 3 kilometers northeast of the village of Hager, which is just at the corner of 535 and Highway 17. The subject property is in an area predominantly, again, rural uses. So the Sudbury East Planning Board received a proposal to create 2 rural lots from the subject property, which is on North Central Road in the municipality of St. Charles. Each of the lots will have 5 hectares and 100 meters of frontage. So that's for both lots. And the retained lot will have a balance of 55 hectares in area and a lot frontage of 450 meters. And presently, the retained presently contains a single family home on the property. As I do with all severances, I have that criteria. The criteria changes for every application. So in this one, the lot 1 and lot 2 and retained parcel continues to meet the rural zone. Adequate access for the lots to be severed and retained can be accessed from Northern Central Road, which is in the municipality of St. Charles. So the municipality of St. Charles had no objections. We did receive formal comments from them. The director of operations for the municipality of St. Charles on June 1st, 2021, stated that he does not see any foreseeable issues with traffic hazards due to the impaired line of sight after reviewing the proposed driveway entrances based on the site visit. Minimum distance separation is not applicable in this instance, as there is no farming related activities in the vicinity. With respect to servicing, the Sudbury District Health Unit, we received comments on June 4th from the health unit, and they provided that it can be supported because it provides the capability of development of installation of a septic system and leaching bed. So that was obtained by our office on June 4th. And lastly, we also obtained the 2 letters within the servicing of sewage and well. So we received 2 supportive comments or letters addressing both those items. So with that said, I'm going to just shift gears and go into the zoning. as I kind of touched earlier on the official plan criteria. So with the zoning, the lots 1 and 2 and the retaining parcel, as I've echoed, will continue to meet or exceed that 5 hectares and 100 meters. So therefore, there's no proposed new land use change in this application. I'll jump right to the agency comments or public. Bell Canada, no concerns. Hydro One, no concerns. The clerk for the municipality of St. Charles had no concerns. The chief building official, so we kind of looked into this, again, me doing my due diligence. When I go on impact, I recognize there's more structures than there's being assessed, so it's a cause of concern. So I immediately will always and consistently reach out to Andrea Trini to look into the matter, which Andrea Trini did. And so she did provide her comments and saying that there's no concerns with these structures with regards to any planning related application. So that was a positive note. Public Works Superintendent had no issues. Parks and Recreation had no issues. As I noted earlier, Sudbury District Health Unit provided supportive comments, and we did not receive any comments from the public. So with that being said, 2020, the application this evening can be supported because it's consistent with our provincial legislation, conforms to our official plan for the area, and conforms to the zoning bylaw for the municipality of St. Charles.
Does the applicant have a presentation that he or she wishes to make?
Well, good evening, everyone. As stated, my name is Paul Goodridge. I'm with Goodridge Goulet Planning and Surveying Limited. We're representing Renee and Tammy in this application. Mr. Dumont's given it his usual very thorough review. Really, there's nothing further I can add, just to reiterate that we meet all of the minimum requirements and there's been no objection. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Goodrich. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? If so, stand, give your name, full mailing address to the administrative assistant and follow with your comments. And we have nobody from the public here, no comments. Are there any questions or comments from the planning board to the applicant, the director of planning, or any person who has made a presentation? Questions? No. Mr. Dumont, could you read the resolution?
So I'll read the resolution to the board members. Did I misplace it? It's B32, right? Just want to double check. I just want to check. Okay. So it's application B 32-33, 2021, St. Charles. Be it resolved that the consent application submitted by Renee and Tammy, or Renee Rainville and Tammy Haddad, be recommended for approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning.
Okay, and do we have a mover for this resolution? Rochelle? Or
Oh. Yeah, she's-
is she a
Yeah.
member of our board?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
can you move this resolution, please? And a seconder for this resolution, with Paul, okay, and any objections to the resolution as read by Mr. Dumont? And no objections, I presume then it's carried by all.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Have a
Good night, thank you. Please be advised there's a 20-day appeal period during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or the conditions imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the Secretary Treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal. You have 1 year to fulfill the conditions of this conditional approval or the approval will lapse. And finally, that's my agenda here. And finally, I now declare that the portion of the planning board analyze and discuss consent application number B 34, 35, 21, St. Charles, Danica, oh boy, the Salem, and Greg McDonald. Mr. Dumont, will you please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed consent and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application?
So this process was initiated by Danica. It started back on March 27th. So Danica reached out to our office, and she had two ideas. One idea was to create a lot for herself because she wanted to move back to St. Charles. And the second was that her family resides right beside her property. So she wanted to give some land to her uncle. So from that discussion, I guess she just purchased the property. She had retained at the time, a surveyor in the area. And I guess after further discussions, there was an initial submission to us. And from that, again, initial submission, we found out that what Danica really wanted to pursue with the consultants was not accurate. Again, what the issue was, she was under the belief that the property had 200 meters of frontage or 300, I'm just using that as an example. And then on May 13th, so, a couple months go by, she realizes, oh, like, I actually didn't have as much lot frontage as I thought I did. And so at that point, I had a discussion with her on the 13th, and I just said to herself, based on what her intent and purpose is for this application, because I give everybody recommendations or advice when they call, and I felt my intuition said that she was capable of, based on the months of discussions I've had with her, that she's capable of pursuing this on her own, and she wouldn't have to, retain a consultant, because that's why our board is there, to provide that service. So she hummed and thought about it, and then afterwards, with the board's guidance, she was able to basically get to where she is now on her own, and that's where we are today to create one lot and to do a lot addition. So I'm gonna break this down. So there's two applications in one. B34 is the severed lot. B35 is the lot addition. So the lands are located on the west side of Highway 535, south of Low Road and north of Coursol Road. The subject property is approximately 1 kilometer away from the village of St. Charles, so it's pretty close to the village of St. Charles. And it's got a mix of rural and rural uses in the area. As I mentioned earlier, wants to create a lot, wants to do a lot addition. So B34, to create the lot to be created is 0.94 hectares with a lot frontage of 88 meters. And the proposed severed lot is presently vacant. B35 is the proposed lot addition. So we want to take some land and we want to sever that, which is about 2.27 hectares. And we want to add it to that roll number that I identified in my report, and add those land. So basically those lands are going to be added to 149 for Portland Road. And once the lands have been added, so the enlarged, once they're together as one whole, it already contains a single family home. So the lot's going to be enlarged. So the proposed retaining lot is going to have approximately 20 or 19.52 hectares in area. And we'll have two frontages, one on Portland Road, which is 21 meters. And south on Coursol Road, it'll have 215 meters and is also presently vacant. So this is also a concurrent application, which will be held, I believe, in the middle of September. What I mean by that is there's also zoning applications attached to these severances. And I'm just kind of touch on why. So the intent of the zoning bylaw that will be heard by a council of the municipality of St. Charles is to rezone, because right now the whole property is zoned borough. And the lot she's creating it's more of an estate lot, so it's a smaller lot. And so as a result of that, that triggers a rezoning for residential rural. So she has to rezone that to residential rural, which at the end of the day, she will be building her single family home on that property. And same goes for the lot addition. The lands are rural, so the individual wants to add lands to his property, which are already residential rural. So we got to make sure they're both the same zone. And currently 149 Barbrunlow Road is significantly undersized. So what do I mean by that? That lot was created before the bylaws ever existed. So the bylaws now say, hey, you need to have around 2 acres. Well, his lot, the way it is right now, is significantly under that 2 acre threshold. So once we add the lands, we have to meet the new guidelines. And so the zoning bylaw will recognize the deficiency in the lot area, as well as the deficiency in road frontage. And it will be one property that will be continued to use as residential rural purposes. As I mentioned earlier, the criteria, we're looking at residential rural in this case. So everything will work itself out for the severed lot and the addition. And the retained parcel though, will be maintained as rural. So no change in the retained, only in the severed pieces. Adequate access to the proposed lots to be severed and retained are accessed by the two roads I mentioned earlier, which are publicly, they're public roads maintained by the municipality of St. Charles, and they're year round. The chief administrator office did confirm that the proposed lot locations will be suitable for the entrance permits issued on the severances are final, and the CAO of St. Charles preferred a 66-foot road allowance. So basically, a Purple on Law Road, you'll notice that they're creating one lot and there's an existing lot. So I wanted to ensure that I asked the municipality, what are their road standards so the lands could still be accessed? Because you don't want to cut access off. If you cut access off in the future, there's no potential future development in the area. So the CAO provided me with the 66-foot road allowance that will be in place for the future. So should Danica change her mind in the future, may want to create a plan of subdivision, you're not going to only have access of Corcel Road, but you'll also have access to the north to create no traffic issues. So that's why the 66 feet was communicated to the CAO of St. Charles. And the minimum distance is not applicable. Servicing, July 5th, I did get the comments from the Sudbury District Health Unit, so no issues. They are supportive of the severed lot. And the appropriate documentation again was prepared or submitted to our office on June 2nd and June 14th for sewage hauler and potable water. I already kind of touched on the zoning, so I won't go there. I'll leave it open to the board members should they have any questions of the residential zone, rural zone for both B34 and 35. And the retained parcel of land is going to remain as rural, so no zoning changes there. For agency comments, Bell Canada had no concerns. The clerk for the municipality of St. Charles said the property is subject to the municipal drains and may require reapportionment as a condition of approval. Chief building official had no issues. Public works superintendent, no issues. Fire department, no issues. Parks and recreation, no issues. Sudbury District Health Unit provided supportive comments by letter. And no other comments were received by the public as part of this process. And again, the two severances to create the lot and the lot addition can be supported from a planning perspective this evening, as it is in line with the provincial legislation, as well as our local policies, that being the official plan and the zoning bylaw for the area.
Does the applicant have a presentation that he or she wishes to make? And she's not there. So are there any questions or comments from members of the public? If so, please stand, give your name and full mailing address to the administrative assistant and follow with your comments. And we don't have any public. Are there any questions or comments from the planning board to the applicant, the director of planning, or any person who's made a presentation? Any questions? No questions. Could you please read the resolution?
Okay. So the resolution is for application B34 and 35, 2021 for St. Charles. Be it resolved that the consent application submitted by Danica Bizion and Greg McDonald be recommended for approval as per the report prepared by the Director of Planning.
We have a mover for this resolution, Renee, and a seconder, Rochelle. And any objection to the resolution as read? And we will consider this approved by all. Please be advised that there is a 20-day planning appeal period, during which time any person or public body may appeal the decision or condition imposed by the planning board by filing an appeal with the Secretary Treasurer as prescribed by the local planning appeal tribunal. You have 1 year to fulfill the conditions of this conditional approval or the approval will lapse. We are now moving on to business arising from the previous minutes. And I don't think anything came up for that. And now new business. We are looking at the minutes. I don't know what, MMAH funding agreement. Mr. Dumont, could you advise us of what that entails?
So to you, Madam Chair, for new business, MMAH, basically that's a province. And every year, just like each member municipality contributes to our funded service, so does the province. And in order to receive the amount of $27,591 from the province, we need to pass a resolution that is to be executed by our board members. So this evening, I am bringing forth a resolution for funding for the unorganized townships. So this money is strictly for the 13 unorganized townships. And once we have this moved in second and all in favor, we will provide this resolution to our ministry, and they will provide us with the funds for our operation.
Okay, that's the resolution.
And any questions?
Questions, Renee? Nope, she's just waving at us. Anyone
No,
else?
I was just gonna move it.
Okay, Renee
Okay,
wants to
so-
move it.
I'll put forward the resolution so she can. Be it resolved that the Sudbury East Planning Board hereby authorizes the chair and the secretary treasurer to execute the funding agreement with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for the allocation of $27,591 to the Sudbury East Planning Board for delivery of planning services in the planning area from April 1st to April 1st of 2021 to March 31st of 2022.
And this is moved by Renee. And Ned, would you like to second it?
I sure would.
Okay, and is there anyone that disagrees with this resolution as read by Mr. Dumont? Okay, so we have carried by all. And we are now moving on to selection of 2 members for the Director of Planning Annual Evaluation. That goes by so fast.
So yeah, the what we've structured and what we've learned over the years, this has been effective the last few years, is to select 2 board members to conduct an evaluation. And that evaluation, I'll allow Nancy just to kind of touch on, again, just to remind everybody how this process works. I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, so after tonight, I will email the evaluation to each one of you. Once it's completed, you email it back to myself, and then I compile them all into one evaluation for the 2 board members that are chosen tonight to sit down with Matthew and go over.
So the purpose, and so the purpose tonight is just to have a resolution to select the 2 board members. Last year, it was our chair and our vice chair that conducted the evaluation. So that doesn't mean it has to be the same individuals this time around. But obviously, it's always nice to have the chair part of that, because the chair is the chair of our board. So I'll leave it as that and allow you guys to have a discussion with Carol.
I just wanted to add one more comment. When you are filling out the evaluation, please note that if you don't feel that the question is applicable, you don't have to answer it. There's some questions on there that we obviously wouldn't know anything about. So that even myself, I suddenly noticed last year. So don't feel bad about leaving that blank. And I will accept being one of the members. Would anybody else dying to work with me? Nobody. How about Ned? I don't.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I did it last year, and I'd really like a new member maybe to,
That's a great idea. Any new member that would look at Renee? Thank you. Thank you, Renee. Okay, so
I will read the resolution now that we have 2 selected board members for the evaluation. So be it resolved that the Sudbury Planning Board members, Carol and Renee, will perform the annual personal evaluation for the Director of Planning.
do we have a mover for this resolution as read by Mr. Dumont? David, he's just so happy he doesn't have to do it. And the seconder, John. And any objection to these 2 people, the resolution as read? Okay, we will consider that carried by all.
Can I just say something? So yeah, once I've compiled them all, I will just get the 2 members to coordinate together with Matthew and his schedule and Carol, the best time to possibly meet, and hopefully maybe that would be at one of our board meetings. Maybe we can arrange it so that, because we do come to French River, if that's what we're doing still, Renee's in French River, so we'll get together and plan something for that.
Okay, and application update.
So through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to take the opportunity. I provided some numbers in the meetings folder. And I just want to kind of give you just kind of an update, like the title states. So what these numbers mean, basically, I do a projection. So when we run the budget, those budget numbers in terms of development applications, because there's two sources of revenue. The revenue from each member municipality in the province, and then the other source is through development applications. So these numbers, what you're seeing here is a reflection of the development applications that we have processed up to July or the end of July. And so these percentages and values, so those values are basically revenue values. So those numbers you see are revenue. So for example, French River, it says budgeted applications, 23,000, almost 24,000. That's what we budgeted. And what we've received at the end of July, we're exceeding that. Okay, so basically, you might ask myself, well, how did you come up with these numbers, Matt? This is an average over the last 5 years. So over the last 5 years, I've taken an average of each development application. I've plotted into the budget. It gives us the revenue, and we're either running a surplus in terms of revenue, or maybe behind schedule. So all I wanted to show you this is at the end of July, and we got August, September, October, November, December. So we got 5 months left. So French River's already exceeded their expectation. Killarney is 73%. Well, basically, based on my calculations right now, Killarney is exceeding expectations. Why? Because we've just completed 55% of the year. So they're at 73%. So they're exceeding their revenues. Mark State Warren, they're at 93%. Again, they're almost double what, based on the balance of the year completed to what we're projecting. They're right now in line with their revenues. We're anticipating 13,000. We're $1,000 difference right now at the end of July. St. Charles has almost literally doubled their revenue for development applications as of July. Budget at 7,200. We already have over $12,000. It's 172% for St. Charles. And then the unorganized is the lowest out of the bunch. But with that said, they're still exceeding expectations, which is 55%. So with everybody, with all the member municipalities and the unorganized, the number right now is 55%. And if you look at applications completed, French River at 102, Killarney at 73%, Park State Warren at 93%, St. Charles, the outlier right now at 172%, and unorganized at 65%. So basically, in other words, if the year ended right now, we'd be in line with our budget right now with revenues.
The chair recognizes Renee.
Matt, just a question. So I know the dollar amounts received they're great, but are these, when you did your budget, the new fees weren't included in these budgeted amounts, right? And is that where we're seeing the dollar amounts with the new budget prices or increases that we did?
Through you, Madam Chair. No, that's a very good question. So it's a good question. I would say, I'm gonna be honest in saying no. Why I say that is most of these applications were deemed complete, meaning in other words, Nancy is cashing the checks at the Case Populaire before we had, I would say like probably 80% of those numbers, like a high percentage would be no. But yes, to a lower percentage being reflected to your question in that. And then going forward, I would say 100% Renee, yes, going forward, obviously, for the balance of the years, that would be marginally increased per se. I'll give you an example. We increased the severance application $100. So let's say if we get another, 10 applications, I'm just gonna use 10, that's an extra $1,000. So in retrospect, if you look at the numbers, that's $60,000 right now, 61,000. Just changing that $100, obviously it helps, don't get me wrong. But it actually, when you think of it, it's actually not as big of an impact as you may think it is because of the number of applications we received starting January.
Okay, so at the end of the year, we should see a slight increase in the numbers because of this at the end of the year. But not so much per case, like.
You know what I'll do, through you, Madam Chair, what I'll do is I'll quantify that for you. So I'll break it down into a pie chart. And because I'll know when we put the new fees in place. So I'll show you I'll break it down and say, okay, this is what we increased. And that'll give perspective to all the board members and saying, okay, and it's kind of quantify, okay, I see, but at the same time, we're a record development application. So those fees being increased marginally based on the numbers haven't changed anybody from doing any development.
Well, that's good to hear.
Oh,
That's
so sorry, Nancy has a comment.
Yeah, just to kind of add to that. I would say basically when it comes to consent applications, the applications that we've seen tonight probably are the only ones that pretty much have the new fees attached to them. Because previously people had paid prior to the new fees. And then along with a couple minor variances in zoning bylaws. So I wouldn't say that it's impacted it that much. I would say maybe $2,000 is what I would say.
She's good. She takes care of all the numbers, as you know.
Okay, any other questions about the budgeted apps and dollars and so on? No other questions? Okay. Are there any notices of motion received by Secretary Treasurer prior to the closing of the meeting?
No.
No.
You're looking at me.
Waiting for that, no. And payment of vouchers, if you could look at June and July's list of payments that went out. Are there any questions or comments that you would like to make? Any questions or comments by anyone? Going once. We have a resolution.
So I'll read the resolution for disbursements for the month of June and July. So be it resolved that the statement of disbursements for the month of June 2021 in the amount of $21,350.74. In the month of July 2021 in the amount of $19,949.34 be distributed and is hereby approved for payment.
And do we have a mover for this resolution as read? Dave, and a seconder. Paul, would you second that? Yes, okay. Do we have any objections to the resolution as read by Mr. Dumont? And no objections, so I presume carried by all. And we are moving on to our adjournment and next meeting.
Through Madam Chair to the board members. So I have it scheduled for October 14th. So basically September would not have a meeting. The reason why we don't have a meeting is for the moment time being, I have one application that's on the agenda or scheduled for the application. So again, I need so many days in advance to a meeting to properly provide notice and reports, etc. So if anybody was to provide that, I wouldn't have sufficient time to do so for our next September meeting. So as a result of that, I've scheduled our next meeting for October 14th, which is the second Thursday of the month. Again, 5:30 virtually here at the municipality of French River municipal office. Sorry.
Okay.
One quick question, if I can, Madam Chair.
Certainly, we recognize Mr. Wynot.
Thank you. Matt, you just mentioned October, we're virtually, is that carved in stone or is that tentatively?
That is, it's carved in stone for now, for the time being. I want to see, there's still, I know things seem fine. Things are heading in the right direction, but I'm still hesitant, to be honest with you, Ned. So I was looking at, from my perspective, I was looking going up to the new year virtually. And then
All right.
before the new year, reevaluate with you guys.
No problem, Matt. I just wondered, I know we're starting to come out of our bubble, so I just thought when our next meeting is October, so I kind of thought maybe we'd be able to meet in person, but if you feel that's not appropriate at this time, I have no issue with that.
Thank you, Ned. And honestly, there's no right answer, to be honest with you, because I know some of the municipalities are going, like in our area, going back to, like you said, Ned, in person. I also know with some of my other positions in Sudbury that they're sticking to virtual to the end of the year too. So yeah, there's no right answer. I just want to be as comfortable as I can with everybody. And should anybody have would like maybe a different view, feel free to just send me an email and I can reevaluate that with Nancy. And like you said, Ned, it's not set in stone. I could change that should the board members be okay with that as well.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Ned.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And again, don't forget to fill out that evaluation. And if you have any comments about virtual meetings, and we declare that the meeting is over at
7:13.
7:13.
So be it resolved that the meeting be adjourned at 7:13 p.m. and that the next regular meeting be held on October 14th, 2021 at 5:30 at the municipality of French River Municipal Office virtual.
And we have a mover for this resolution. Oh boy, look at that. Dave and Rochelle seconder. Any objections? And carried by all. And we will see you in October.
Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.
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 I
See you
don't
guys.
think anybody could see me behind the computer.